Breaking news right now. 7 News confirming investigators from Colorado are on the way to North Texas at this hour to see if the shootout and high-speed chase that ended in this fiery crash is connected to the murder of Colorado Corrections Chief Tom Clements.
Hey everybody, about to watch a video about Evan Ebel, a member of the 211 crew, which is a white gang in Colorado, white prison gang in Colorado that was responsible for the murder of Tom Clements. I'm going to talk about, at the end, I'm going to talk about some of the things, some of the personal experiences that I had with the 211s, because there's not a whole lot of information out there about exactly what is true, what is false. And the media just likes to run with the headline. They say white supremacist, white supremacist. Well, this video you're about to watch is only one part of a larger scheme that played out that involves 9/11, the hijackings on 9/11. It involves Americans who have been convicted of terrorism and executed. It involves the only American citizen that has ever been executed abroad, and that was signed off on by Obama. The man was from Colorado. He was a Colorado resident, and so was his son, who also lost his life at 17 years old at the hands of the U.S. government.
Carried out 3 more drone strikes today, taking out 12 suspected terrorists. There have been 8 drone attacks in the past 2 weeks, killing more than 30.
Breaking news. U.S. officials tell ABC News that after all these weeks on terror alert, the U.S. has targeted and hit 4 of the central players behind that threat. It's a fast-moving story.
4 al-Qaeda terrorists connected to the latest threat stream against the American embassy in Yemen had been killed in a drone strike over the weekend. Yemen has become the center of the latest al-Qaeda plots against the U.S. According to other U.S. officials, about 3 dozen al-Qaeda operatives
Allah says in the Quran
drone strikes in Yemen.
that every soul shall taste death.
It has to do with a man being convicted of sexual slavery. A man that I knew personally. And I worked with this man every day. I didn't have a choice. And this man has been tied to the 9/11 attacks, providing material support, what is called providing material support for terrorism, which means you may help terrorists make money. And it ultimately ties into the 211 gang and the murder of Tom Clements, the Colorado Bureau of Prisons chief. So this is only one episode that has to do with Evan himself, but I'm going to explain a lot more at the end. I'm going to explain how I fit into all of this. I'm going to explain the rumors, what is true, what is not true, and my take on the whole situation. Most of us remember where we were on 9/11.
It's too much of a coincidence that the successor to Al-Qaeda ideologically was also connected to 2 of the individuals that planned the worst terrorist attacks that we've ever seen.
9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
When the towers fell, if we are old enough to remember the world, we remember 9/11. We remember watching the towers fall. I had my own apartment at the time. I can remember I was sleeping, I was in bed, and one of my customers called me and said, "Hey man, you got some dope?" It was a woman. I said, "Yeah, I got some dope." She said, she didn't say that specifically. She said, "You good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good. You straight? Come through." She said, "You see the you see the TV yet?" I said, "No." She said, "Turn on TV real quick." Okay. I just had, now this would tell you about the times. I had just paid like almost $500 for a 25-inch console TV, right? One of the ones, not even a flat screen. This wasn't even flat screen back then, right? And man, I fucking paid through the nose for that goddamn thing, but I was so happy about it. It was like the nicest thing I had in my house. You know what I mean? My little beater of an apartment. It was my first apartment ever. It was like the nicest thing I had is my TV. So turned on the TV. It was like a big screen, a 25-inch. No, it was a 32-inch. That's what it was, a 32-inch. It was a fucking behemoth. So I turned on my brand new 32-inch, you know what I mean?
What? This is 737?
Jules, this is Ryan. Listen, on an airplane that's been hijacked, and things will go well, and it's not looking good. I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So have a good time. Same to my parents and everybody. And I just totally love you, and I'll see you later. Bye, babe.
Anwar Awlaki was born on April 21st, 1971 in Las Cruces, New Mexico. He was a Yemeni. His father was a Yemeni immigrant who was come over. He was an educated man. He came from gifted family, gifted background, but from there, from 7 years old, he moves to Yemen. His father actually moves to Yemen to become the Yemeni Minister of Agriculture, work for the government, for an official position. So these are important people. These are smart people. So he comes back at 19 years old to study in Fort Collins, Colorado, at Colorado State University. He comes back to study engineering, has a knack for speaking in general. He got his bachelor's in civil engineering and was completely bored. Gets invited to speak part-time, to work part-time at the Denver Islamic Society. In February of 2016, the trial of Homaidan AlTurki begins. He pleads not guilty. Him and his wife plead not guilty to all charges. The charges range from just theft, like grand theft, because he withheld this woman. The claim was that he allegedly had withheld this woman's wages, right, for all of these years, had basically had her work for him for like 4 years and barely paid her for anything, right? So there was the sexual assault. There was obviously sexual assault charges involved. There was basically like, theft of services. That's what it was. Homaidan AlTurki's defense claims that the feds filed a fraudulent case against Mr. AlTurki because they had failed to make a federal case against him for terrorism several years before. Mr. AlTurki had been investigated for providing material support for terrorists in the past. Remember the publishing house, Al-Bashir Publishing, that Mr. AlTurki was running? Well, it turns out some of the books and CDs and sermons that he had translated were from a man named Anwar Awlaki. Perhaps you remember him from the first video that I made. If you don't remember him, please go back and watch the first video. It really, by the end of the series, all four of them are going to tie in very well. They're all connected. So Mr. Awlaki, if you hadn't watched the first one, is responsible for a lot of terrorism. He's an American citizen responsible for a lot of terrorism. So his sermons are responsible. They had tied Mr. AlTurki to Mr. Awlaki because by publishing this man's sermons, the sermons that they believe directly are tied to the hijackers on 9/11. They know that Mr. Awlaki came in contact with at least 3 of the hijackers from 9/11, and he proselytized hatred against America. So they blame this man for 9/11. Now, Mr. AlTurki, well, he helped Mr. Awlaki spread his message, right? So now that the government has something on Mr. AlTurki, they're not going to let it go. After 2.5 weeks of deliberation, Mr. AlTurki was found guilty.
In the end, it was just too much for his family and friends. Just moments before, they'd walked with a white-clad Homaidan AlTurki on what might be his final steps as a free man. Now he was convicted and immediately jailed, unable. Regardless of cultural differences, clearly his verdict was not lost in translation.
So this whole thing in Texas started around 11:20 this morning with a routine traffic stop in Montague County. A deputy pulling over a black Cadillac with Colorado plates. The driver, possibly the suspect in Clements' murder, shoots the deputy twice in the chest, once in the head, then takes off, sparking a high-speed pursuit through traffic. A police chief in the area saying the driver shot at him, sticking his arm out the window of the moving vehicle, firing at police.
Evan Ebel was a troubled youth, to say the least. He spent several months in different institutions as a child. His father had him sent to a boarding school out of state. He had kicked in someone's door and gunpoint demanded money of everybody at the door or everybody in the house. He had been committed numerous times, pulling knives on people. He'd been in a lot of trouble as a juvenile.
But we're also learning within the last 90 minutes this may be not only the beginning of a much larger but a far-reaching investigation.
Colorado is sending and should be here this evening investigators that are working on that case and other homicide cases in the Colorado area.
Now, one of those cases, last week's murder of pizza delivery man Nate Leone in Denver. Authorities in Texas finding a pizza box and delivery jacket in the wrecked car.
Gets out to Texas, takes his Cadillac down to Texas. Cop tries to pull him over. Cop walks up on the right-hand side as a thing. I don't think the cop recognized. Some of the reports say that, oh, the cop spotted the thing, and then the cop spotted the car, and so once he recognized the car, that's why he pulled him. Well, he didn't act like it whenever he walked up to it. He's walking up to it nonchalant, not like he thinks dude's got a gun or anything like that. So the cop walks up on the passenger side. Dude hits him 3 times, twice in the chest, once in the face. Evan cracks him out of the window like this, like bah, 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 right? Drops it, so takes off. As an adult, he heads right off to prison, and almost immediately ends up in solitary confinement for assaulting a guard. And this seems to be where Evan's spiral really starts. His father, who, as it turns out, was actually friends with friends with Governor John Hickenlooper at the time, the governor of Colorado, had actually spoken to him apparently about, he says that they didn't speak about a specific inmate. They just talked about solitary confinement. That's probably a lie. I'm sure he probably called and said, hey, my son's in solitary confinement, da, 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 da. But this is what his father described. His father said that any mental health problems that Evan may have had prior to being put in solitary confinement seems to have been exacerbated. His father said that he would drive 2 to 3 hours to go see his son, and the visits would be a couple hours long, and it would take him an hour and a half just to calm down. He would be so agitated about the guards, about what they had done to him, about what they were currently doing to him, about how they were treating him. His behavior spiraled.
In that January, in June of 2004, he shot himself twice, once in the stomach and once in the leg. Reporting live, Amanda Cost, 7 News.
They say known white supremacist Evan Ebel of Colorado was behind the wheel, driving across Texas at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour, shooting his gun at officers along the way.
Couldn't make it, get on parole. Every time he'd go back to the joint, straight back into the hole, back into the box, solitary confinement.
And new information in the case of a man killed in this Texas shootout. He's believed to be responsible for 2 Colorado murders. 7 News Learning investigators found bomb-making materials in his car, as well as handwritten instructions to the home of Colorado Corrections Chief Tom Clements.
At some point during his incarceration, Evan Ebel joined the 211 crew, joined up with the white boys in Colorado, started doing their thing. But like I said, the majority of the time that he had been incarcerated, he was spent in solitary confinement. He's finally released, decides that he's going to kill the director of prisons. I'm not sure what his motivation is. I don't know that anybody knows what his motivations are, other than possibly just to kill the director of prisons, maybe just cause mayhem. Maybe this is what he felt. Maybe perhaps he felt that prisons had ruined his life. I'm not sure, and maybe he wanted to hold this man responsible. So he, that night, it's not quite clear exactly if he just stumbled upon Nate Leon or if he called and ordered a pizza or what the situation is, but he encounters Nate Leon, who is a Domino's pizza delivery driver.
Now, one of those cases, last week's murder of pizza delivery man Nate Leon in Denver. Authorities in Texas finding a pizza box and delivery jacket in the wrecked car. The Call 7 investigators also breaking new information all day on the 7 News app about what happened in the moments before Tom Clements was gunned down after answering the door at his house Tuesday night.
Officer safety bulletin, extreme caution. The Clark County Sheriff's Office and the Colorado Department of Corrections requesting all law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for the following parties.
That bulletin warning authorities about this man, 31-year-old Thomas Goulet, also known as Ghost. This is his photo from the Department of Corrections. He's wanted in connection with the murder of Tom Clements at his Monument home. We checked his criminal history, which includes assault and intimidating witnesses. Another man is also wanted, but we don't have his photo. James Lohr is 47. He's known as Jimbo and may be in Nevada or Texas.
Those are known associates of the 211 crew have shown violent tendencies and should be considered armed and dangerous.
Like what are the boxes, the Domino's boxes that keep the pizza hot? Steals one of those. And there's a pizza box as well. Kills this dude, steals that stuff, takes off. The next day, seems that he shows up at the house of the director of prisons. People report seeing a boxy car spotted near the home. It seems that he acted like a delivery driver. Came up, acted like he was delivering a pizza. A struggle ensued in the vestibule. I still haven't got a clear answer as to why a struggle ensued. You would think you just, I got a pizza, boom, and then shoot him. Apparently not. Apparently there was some sort of struggle in Mr. Clements' vestibule. But so the kid flees the scene. Evan Ebel flees the scene. This is all allegedly too. I mean, dude's dead, so they never really tried him. He's never been convicted, so this is all allegedly, right? So kid takes off.
What is it? I believe he just blew a tire or something, County. He's smoke coming from the vehicle very bad. We copy, possibly blown tire. Still southbound in front of Don Jose's at this time. Copy, passing Don Jose, southbound. Downtown Decatur, about past 51. The exit at McDonald's here. You take your 51 exit. He It's going south on 287, correction, 380. He's going east or west on 380. Business 380. Walking on each other. 380 in front of Lowe's. I copy west 380 in front of Lowe's. 2K calling at this time. Still high rate of speed, 80 miles an hour. Fast approaching 2K. Stand by, contact Boston. We've also notified Bridgeport. Apparently, it's near the Decatur. They're still shooting. 723, you copy that west traffic? Fleet, major accident. See fleet. All 1578 vehicle stopped. 400. Medics. At this time, 16, medic 1 is staged behind one of the vehicles on business 380. He's down, shots fired, he's down.
Says, let's go. And just starts letting off. Whop, 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 whop. At the cops. Cops eat him up. As soon as he jumps out the car, the cops eat him up. He's done. And that was the end of Evan Ebel. Right? So, the couple days later, news runs a story. And they say, well, Evan Ebel killed the suspect in the murder of Colorado Prisons Chief Tom Clements, connections to the 211 crew, white supremacist gang, 211 crew. It's like it's a grand conspiracy. They're acting like it's a grand conspiracy, you know? So then, 3 days later, Fox News runs with the headline, AlTurki sought for questioning AlTurki under investigation. Homaidan AlTurki is under investigation for ordering the hit on Tom Clements.
It was a proud moment for Homaidan AlTurki in a year that has left him in serious legal trouble. Free on bond paid by the government of Saudi Arabia, AlTurki hosted Denver's Sunni Muslim community at a Ramadan dinner.
Just having the flavor to be between my brothers and sisters, the Muslim sisters and brothers here, is by itself, something that has a good impact on myself, especially after all of this trouble that I have gone through.
In particular, his lawyers say the government has been looking into the proceeds from AlTurki's Al-Bashir Islamic bookstore in Aurora.
This is very sad, but we Muslims basically, just after 9/11, we've been profiled.
You remember Homaidan AlTurki? He's from episode 2. The same guy that they were trying to hang for his Indonesian housekeeper, saying that he had kept his Indonesian housekeeper as a sex slave. So now they've got this wild hair up their ass, the DOC does, that this murder that's just happened from a white supremacist, they say a white supremacist prison gang, these buzzwords, okay, from this white supremacist prison gang, just committed this hit. It must have been the Muslims, right? Clearly it was the Muslims. So this Muslim had been denied parole 3 days earlier by Tom Clements, right? He was trying to go back to Saudi Arabia, Homaidan AlTurki. So Tom Clements gets whacked. They have put Homaidan AlTurki on skates. Evan Ebel, the man who actually committed the murder, he's dead. He's dead and gone. They can't hold him responsible no more. They go after all these 211 dudes. They ship these 211 dudes all over the country, put them on skates, mess their whole lives up. They don't get to see their families no more, none of this. Now they're just all out all over the country. And Homaidan AlTurki, they did the same thing. Right? So everybody, anybody who could get actually whacked for this, who could get hit for this, is dead. And then everybody else, they're just taking it out on everybody else. Right? So you start to see a pattern here of them blaming whoever they could get their hands on, whoever they can, you know what I mean? Whoever they can get their claws into, that's who they're going to blame. It doesn't really have a lot to do with who's guilty and who's not guilty. We're starting to see a pattern here, right? Yeah. So that's Evan Ebel in a nutshell.
Bro, medics, at this time, 16, medic 1 is staged behind one of the vehicles on business 380. He's down, shot fired, he's down.
3 of the 9/11 hijackers, they can tie directly to a man named Anwar Awlaki. Anwar Awlaki was an Yemeni citizen, I believe. Very young. He came from Yemen here to Colorado. Ended up doing very well here. He was a man of means. His father was a man of means in Yemen. They come here. He does well in college and ends up becoming a basically like a preacher, an Islamic preacher at the Denver Mosque. Denver Islamic Center. That's what it's called. So he gets to preaching, and people really like him. He's really smart. He's trained in engineering, but he's not using it. He's just bored by his engineering degree, right? He's a really smart dude. He doesn't want to be in engineering. Like, this sucks. So he gets a job at the Denver Islamic Center speaking because he's a very good speaker. Well, this man is ultimately tied to his preaching. His sermons are ultimately tied to 3 of the 9/11 hijackers for sure. So we know that that they were being influenced by this man. This knowledge caused Barack Obama to issue the first order to ever kill an American citizen on foreign soil. We don't do that. We're not supposed to do that because we bring people to trial. That's how we are, right? We're supposed to bring people to trial and give them their day in court. That's what we do. So now other citizens, we will kill them. From other countries, things of this nature. But our own citizens, we're not really supposed to kill them. So Anwar Awlaki becomes the first American citizen, because ultimately he gets his citizenship in America, becomes an American citizen. He becomes the first American citizen to be executed overseas. Executed at all, without trial. Okay, so then they get to looking at Mr. Awlaki's stuff, right? All the stuff that he does, because you know how they do. If you do something like this, they're going to go after everybody else, right? So they go start looking into Mr. Awlaki's past. Well, it turns out these sermons that he had been proselytizing, they were published by Al-Bashir Publishing. Al-Bashir Publishing operated here in Colorado. It was owned by a man named Homaidan AlTurki. Man named Homaidan AlTurki. Okay, so Homaidan AlTurki is a Saudi Arabian citizen who is here on a permanent type work visa. Is allowed to basically be here. He's studying a PhD in linguistics at the University of Colorado. There's no problems with him being here. He's a productive member of society. He's a man of means. He owns his own businesses. Well, it turns out that he was running a translation company, and Mr. Awlaki had come to him because obviously the Denver Islamic Society, and then you've got this educated man in linguistics who is bilingual, this very intelligent dude working on a PhD. he's also another Muslim. Hey, brother, translate my stuff for me, right? So, one way or another, whether he knows it or not, Mr. AlTurki translates all of these proselytizing into English, and then a bunch of these people in America, the government believes they become radicalized. You can make an argument that they become radicalized and then commit acts of terror. So now, Mr. Awlaki they've just killed, and Mr. AlTurki they suspect of providing material support for terrorism. Excuse me real quick. So, they begin to question Mr. AlTurki. He says he cooperates fully. He's a citizen. Cooperates fully with him as much as he can. He says, hey, I just published the stuff, I don't know. I didn't know he was going to do any of this. And whenever you listen to the sermons, I've written to listen to some of the sermons. They're not, kill the Americans and da-da-da. It's not that. It's not that at all. It's just normal stuff out of the Bible, but Homeboy interprets it. Mr. Awlaki interprets it in his own interpretations, and many other languages, languages around the world, especially Arabic, are very sing-songy, right? We have to remember that, okay, Islam doesn't allow music, right? They don't allow, like hardcore Islam doesn't allow music. What they do allow, and what they absolutely encourage, and the verses, many of the verses have been written like this, is for people to sing their prayers. And they actually sing them in unison. And I would really like to go there someday and watch them do it, because I've seen videos of it, and it looks amazing. Imagine an entire city. Imagine your entire city praying in unison, singing, right? At the same time every day. It's right, but they don't allow music because music is the tool of the devil. Whatever, I don't remember. There was a specific leader in the past, Islamic leader in the past, that outlawed music. But that's here nor there, right? So the point is, Mr. AlTurki, Mr. Awlaki. Mr. Awlaki's dead. Mr. AlTurki provided support for him. That's how the government sees it. The government goes blindly against people whenever they think that they did something like this. This is what we see in Julian Assange. This is why there's no compromise with Julian Assange. This is why it's just that we want him. The government acts as a unity. If the government acts in unison and says, we want Mr. Assange, and that's it. There's no political figure that says it, that comes out and says, we want Mr. Assange. It's just them. The theoretical them. They want Julian Assange, and they want him bad. So, the government doesn't give up whenever they want somebody. Well, it turns out they wanted Mr. AlTurki, because they believe Mr. AlTurki helped Mr. Awlaki spread his message. So they start going after Mr. AlTurki. The interviews, the ransacking his house, the da-da-da-da-da, whatever they can do, right? Whatever they can do to harass this dude. You know how they do, the constant interviews, whatever. They fail to make a case. They stop him in another state, I believe in Kansas or something like that. They stop him, ransack through his car, take everything out of his car, take pictures of it, send it to the FBI. The FBI has an open investigation into him for years. They just keep an open investigation. It's basically one of those. He's connected to 9/11, open investigation, period. So this goes on for years. And then one of the powers that be notices that Mr. AlTurki has allowed his servants, his housemaids' visa to lapse. So what do you do whenever somebody lets a visa lapse? Well, you raid the house and take everybody in the house to jail. That's the answer for the FBI. Whenever you're under investigation for 9/11 stuff, that's the answer. Right? Let me get one of these. So, that's the answer. That becomes the answer. They arrest him, they arrest his wife, and they arrest the house servant, right? That's it, just for an expired piece of paper, right? They charge him with it, take him to trial on it. It goes bad. The whole shows up. His whole family, all the Muslims in the community show up. He gets convicted anyway. He gets convicted at trial, found guilty at trial. And they send him to the box for like 28 to life or something like that. His family loses it in the courtroom. They're doing interviews all over the place. This is racism and this is 9/11 profiling, and this is all about them trying to make a case out of nothing after they had failed to make a case years ago for terrorism. So now they're coming back later. This is basically retaliation for 9/11, right? He goes to prison. This is in 2007. In 2006, I had set off a riot in the Arkansas Valley Correctional Facility in Ordway, Colorado. They had taken about 20 of us from Ordway to Lyman because Ordway's hole is dry cells, which means they can't lock you in the hole, which means whenever you're in the hole, they have a deep segregation that has like 10 cells, but like 20 of us got in a fight, right? So their deep segregation, we overflowed that, and then regular segregation was just doors that you could just open. The bars were outside of the doors. The bars were like 3 or 4 feet in front of your door, so everybody had like a common walkway. It was the craziest hole you ever seen. You'd come out and talk to the homies. You'd be chilling in the hole and just open your door and be like, "Hey dog, what up?" You know what I mean? Bullshitting, standing out on the tier. That's the hole. In Ordway, it's weird. It's a closed facility too. It's because they built the place as dry cells where they all had common bathrooms, and so because of that, they're not allowed to lock you in the cell. They can't lock you in the cell if it's dry. So we had filled up the hole. So many of us got down in the riot, we had filled up the hole completely. They had taken me, put me in the STG program, put a bunch of us in the STG program in Lyman, sent a bunch of people to the box. We were the lucky ones. We got to go to the STG program. I think it was because we were on the low, we got the worst end of the stick, because there was like 8 of us and like 20 of them. And so they were like, clearly those guys were probably the aggressors. Nobody told them anything, like nobody talked. That's one thing I'll give, is nobody said a fucking word. The cops didn't know nothing. They were pissed. You could tell by the end of it, they didn't have any clue what happened. All they know is that a big-ass fight happened, but they had zero information. So, I roll up to Lyman, Colorado. My co-defendant's there. Almost immediately, he gets me into a cush job in power sewing, right? Now, I'm there for a while, but eventually I end up getting kicked out. I get in a fight. I got in a fight with this Sereno fool, and the cops knew it was a cop that didn't like me. He was out there watching, and he could tell it was tense. He was watching through the thing. He's like, "I think these dudes are about to do something," and sure enough, we were beefing with each other. You know what I mean? So we set things up. I told the homie, I said, "Hey, send somebody over here. Let's make sure everything's copacetic. You know what I mean? Make sure I got some backup. Go grab a banger real quick." Because there was a bunch of Serenos in that pod, and it was pretty much just me. But I had some homies. The homies, but not homies. It was actually a blood fool. I told the blood fool, I said, "Hey, homie, grab a banger real quick and hold me down." He was like, "Okay, cool." So me and the dude go in there and started getting busy. The cop already knew we were going to get busy. He was already watching. So as soon as we went in there, and he listened over the intercom, as soon as he heard us scuffling, they fucking ran in. It was the shortest fight I ever been in. But, so we go to, so I go to the hole for that fight. I worked in power sewing for a couple years, right? Maybe a year and a half, something like that. It's a good job, like $200. That's where I saw that lady get stabbed in the neck. But anyway, so then I get to I get to reentry program. That's what the fuck it's called. I can't believe I can't remember what that's called. That's where I work. So I get into the reentry program. Man, I need to cut that shit out. That was too much. Here, fuck. Okay. Here, do this. Let's make sure we can see the fucking audio spike. We're to cut that bitch. There. Now we got 5 good audio spikes. All right. So I work in power sewing for a couple years. I get kicked out of there for a fight, and then I end up getting a job in the reentry program, which is like I was a parapro in the reentry program, helping people with their resumes and helping people whenever they get out with resources, how to find resources, how to go get food stamps, stuff like that. I was teaching people, you know what I mean? Teaching people just basic stuff, basic English and stuff like that. Well, another guy who happened to be a parapro in that pod, or in that class, was Homaidan AlTurki. So I ended up with Mr. Homaidan AlTurki all day long. I hung out with dude all day long, right? That was my job, is I got to converse with this fool. So I got to know the man. It was an interesting character. We never talked about his case because, I mean, what can I say? It's sexual slavery. He's not going to admit it to me. That's for fucking sure. You know what I mean? I mean, that's not going to happen. But, you know, I gotta judge the man with what I know. I was next to this man every day for like a year. I worked next to him every day in the same classroom for like a year. He's one of the most honest people I've ever met in my life. I can't speak on what his crime. I can't speak on what he did. I know he maintained his innocence the entire time. He never admitted anything. He refused to take the sexual classes. They had he refused to program as a sex offender. The entire time he refused to program as a sex offender. He's a model inmate, 100% model inmate. He did get in a fight one time. I know he got in a fight with this fool Geike. I remember that. But he wasn't looking for a fight. Geike was just kind of a grumpy motherfucker, and they ended up getting the heads. But he was extremely honest. He was extremely earnest. He was very humble, very pious, very pleasant individual. Clearly a serious Muslim. And that's all I could say about the dude. I can't vouch for him other than that. Other than it sure looks like they targeted him. From what I can tell, they targeted this man because of 9/11. Now, here's where 211 comes in. Here's where this gets more interesting, right? So now we have to talk about Homaidan AlTurki's relationship to 211. Because in 2013, whenever Mr. Clements gets killed, right, the director of the Bureau of Prisons gets killed in Colorado, they blame 211. But they don't just blame 211. Like 2 days after Evan Ebel allegedly kills the Bureau of Prisons chief, right, a story shows up in Fox, the local Fox affiliate, and it says Homaidan AlTurki is being investigated into this death, right? 3 days earlier, he had been denied parole. He had been denied to go serve his sentence in Saudi Arabia. Okay? So their idea, what they want to put out there is Homaidan AlTurki got denied his final request to go back home to Saudi Arabia and serve his sentence. And within 72 hours, he was able to have a 211 member, Evan Ebel, assassinate the director of the Bureau of Prisons. Maybe I would argue, okay, this is how this works whenever you go see a board or something like that. They rarely ever give you, if you go see the parole board you're not gonna get, you don't sit in front of the parole board and then they say, oh, well, yeah, I don't think so. Or they don't say, okay, yeah, we like you. It's not like in the movies. They say, okay, thank you, sir, for your time. We'll be in touch. And then the next day or the day after, or sometimes they will do what's called tabling, but we'll get into that in a second. That is whenever you get your results. I've never gotten results less than 24 hours later. So, let's say that they got him his results as soon as possible. Let's say he sees the board on a Monday, right? The prison's chief is killed on Thursday. That's what that means. If he sees the board on Monday, the prison's chief is killed on Thursday, right? Sees the board on Monday, gets his response Tuesday morning. Well, he works with me early in the morning at the school, so he can't do nothing early in the morning. There's really no daytime to do anything. You just get up. I guess he could get up like early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and jump on the phone ASAP. But that phone call would be very easy to find, for the police to find. Okay? So he's got to wake up, make the phone call, or he's got to wake up and go to work. He wakes up, goes to work, we go to work all day. The first chance he would have to make a phone call would be at noon. He's got to call some 211 representative that obviously they've set up before, or there's just a 211 gang member in the pod with him, which is possible, but that'd be pretty easy to pinpoint. There's not a lot of 211s. There's not a million of them. They're not like Serranos. They're not just crawling out of the fucking woodwork, right? These are select few dudes. So the chances of there just being a pack of them in his, you know what I mean, over there in Lyman, you're lucky if you're going to get 2 or 3 in a pod. You're lucky if you're going to get 3 in a pod. Three 211s in a pod, right? So it would be easy to trace. Lyman is not a big prison. 1,300 people, right? Not everybody uses the phone every day. So how many people use the phone every day? Maybe 300-400. And some people use the phone multiple times a day. So let's say there's 600 phone calls you have to go through to find the hit, to find something. They've found absolutely nothing. They've produced nothing to prove that this guy had anything to do with the murder of Tom Clements whatsoever. Yet immediately after it happened, they put him on skates and started bouncing him from prison to prison all over the place and saying it was for his own protection. I'm going to tell you like this. Homaidan AlTurki was doing just fine in Lyman and wasn't nobody going to touch him, right? Because there was a billion fucking Muslims running around over there. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but the Muslims really don't give a fuck if you got sex charges. And that's just quiet as it's kept, homie. I'm just going to be on some real shit, homie. The Muslims don't care if you have sex charges, dog. And they'll go to bat for that fool. And honestly, quiet as it's kept, that fool that, okay, Homaidan AlTurki went in the room with Geike, like I mentioned earlier, and they got busy, got the heads. Homaidan held his own. He actually held his own, and Geike's a gangster. So Homaidan maybe fought, maybe they taught him how to fight. He was a person for money. So maybe he went through a little bit of sparring or something, some grappling whenever he was young, perhaps. Because he hung in there, right? Well, then the fool twin was like, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like that Geike got the better of him, and he went in there and he broke Geike's jaw. I remember because they went through and did a knuckle check on the entire unit because his jaw had like a softball, not a softball, like a little tennis ball in it. He busted his shit pretty good. Geike held his mud though. He didn't say a fucking word. They didn't strip search. They did a body check on the whole place, right? And this is just because Homaidan had gotten in a fight. They broke the dude's jaw. The Muslims broke the dude's jaw. Well, it didn't. I shouldn't say the Muslims. One dude did. He's a big fucking Muslim. But anyway, the point is, Homaidan wasn't in no danger. He's in more danger now. Because now he's got to go to places where, who knows? I know they sent him to Arizona. I don't know what the Muslims look like in Arizona. I don't know if there's a bunch of them. You know what I mean? There's not a whole bunch of them out here, but there's enough. There's enough that they generally don't let anything happen to their people. They also really discourage their people from causing problems with anybody. you can't really be a Muslim and run around just causing, like, you know, scandalous bullshit. Probably you get yourself in trouble. You know what I mean? They tend to be, they're very humble, and they try to avoid problems, but they will bring it. They will bring it if they have to. I will give them that. So anyway, so they're saying that this man, right? This man got denied parole, and within 72 hours was able to call somebody and activate this hitter on the streets, that Evan Ebel just been sitting out there waiting with the plans to go to this man's house, and he was just like a sleeper cell just waiting for activation, you know, for waiting for the word from the Muslims or for to come down the pipeline. You know, they have no payments, they have no transfer of anything. The dude did, Homaidan AlTurki did occasionally he would throw a pizza party for the whole prison. He'd just spend, I don't know, 20 grand and just buy 20 grand worth of pizza and just give it out to the whole prison. The homie had bread, right? So they tried to say like, oh, this was a payment. He bought the 211's pizza. He bought everybody pizza. It's fucking dumb. You know what I mean? So anyway, they couldn't make it stick, the 9/11 shit. They can't make this thing stick, and they're still denying this dude parole. He is the epitome of a model prisoner, and they still deny him parole. So this is where the 211 stuff starts. Now, we have to look at the 211s and what I saw there. I never saw this man conversate with a 211. Because I conversated with the 211. They didn't have nothing to fucking say to that dude. Nothing. Like zero, there wasn't even disdain. Not disdain or like anything. It was like he didn't exist. That's kind of how the white dudes, you know what I mean? They exist in their own world. They exist in their own world. They pay attention to the things they want to. And that's, you know, and they keep their ride clean. They're real serious about keeping their ride clean, cannibalizing anything that's, you know, weakness and shit like that. I give them that. They keep the fucking ride clean. And they just focus on each other. You know what I mean? Some of them don't. Some of them like to fuck with the other people. You know what I mean? Some of them like to fuck with the other races. They'll come chop it up with you. But point is, they didn't have nothing for this dude. So I don't know where they're making this connection that somehow or another this ended up with Evan Ebel, right? I don't know. Now I want to clear up some things because my personal knowledge about 211 is a different story. Right? It's a completely different story. For one thing, they say 211's a white supremacist gang. 211's not a white supremacist gang. I had 211 friends who had black kids and Mexican kids, and the honest truth is the people who started 211 used to be Bloods. The guy who started it, one of the main ones, Ben Davis, used to be a Blood. And he ended up getting his job. He actually got into it with some of the black Bloods. I don't know what it was about. I don't know if they were saying you're not a Blood or whatever. But they ended up breaking his jaw. And that fool was like, oh, okay. Well, I got some homies too. And started his own fucking gang. Right? It was like, this shit ain't happening to me again. Started his own gang. And it did well. But he used to be a Blood. This dude used to be a Blood. Okay? These aren't racist people. Now, as time progressed, they picked up some racist people in the car. They did, that's true. But in their bylaws, it doesn't say anything about racism. I know their bylaws. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but it says nothing about racism. They don't have to be racist. And the homeboy who did this tattoo, this whole fucking sleeve right here, right, did it because the 211 told him to, right? And not only did the 211 tell him to, right, they did it because the 211 watched me set off that same riot that I'm talking about in Ordway in 2006. So I get the lineman 2 years later, and the fool who's got the keys for the 211s says, that motherfucker's a gangster, he gets whatever tattoos he wants. So they move a wood into my cell, and he starts getting busy, and it turns out I got some dope-ass tattoos like 20 years later, right? That I, you know, I didn't do nothing but look out, just fed the homie and took care of him and did the things that I was supposed to do. So I was close with some of these dudes. Not a lot of them. I'm not going to lie and say a lot of them, because a lot of them are on their hardcore white boy politics shit. And, but there was a whole bunch of them that wasn't. You know what I mean? There was a whole bunch of them that wasn't. The homeboy, a lot of them did. There was nothing that said that they had to be racist. There's nothing in their bylaws about being white supremacists. Throughout time, they picked up white supremacists into their gang, and that was okay. That wasn't against their rules either. But nowhere in their bylaws did it say that they had to be white supremacists. I was also in, I was in the box with one of the dudes. I had just met him whenever I was in the box. We were super cool. He was always real respectful and knowledgeable and a smart dude and everything else. His name was Raymond Kane. I don't know why, but they decided that they were going to take this fool and ship him all across the country. So he's one of the dudes who got shipped across the country whenever the Bureau of Prisons chief got killed. I knew that dude too. That dude was a Jew. Raymond Kane told us he was a Jew. He had a huge nose and used to make fun of it. He had a huge nose and like curly hair. You know what I mean? Like dark curly hair, like a Jewfro. And we used to make fun of him, and he would make fun of himself. You know what I mean? He told us flat out, oh yeah, I'm Jewish. You know what I mean? So the idea that these guys are white supremacists is wrong. It's wrong completely. They just have a couple in there. You know what I mean? So, but any connection to this man, Homaidan AlTurki, is a leap. It's a crazy leap. I don't know why the Homaidan AlTurki, they got him now on like they've reduced a bunch of his sentences, and he's now serving like an 8 to life, but for a sexual assault. That's the thing, is the sexual assault gets you an open-ended sentence in Colorado. That's how they work. Right? So on an 8 to life, this fool's got 20 years in or something like that. And now they just ship him from state to state every couple years. They don't let him get comfortable. They just ship him state to state. So that's what I got on 211. This is what I got on 211 and terrorists and Homaidan AlTurki and Anwar Awlaki and Evan Ebel and the whole crew. This was there's so much disinformation out there about what exactly is going on, or what exactly went on with that whole situation. The news media is so irresponsible. They just make things up, basically. So anybody that is still trying to get Mr. AlTurki released, please feel free to contact me. I'm going to put something in the, I'm going to tag some channels, I think, or something like that, and I'll put something in the description where you can get a hold of me. But thank you. Bye.